Tonight we turn our attention back to Moultrie, a quiet South Georgia town where life usually moves at the pace of rustling pecan trees and distant freight trains. But beneath that calm surface are three separate tragedies that left deep scars on the community. In a town where neighbors know one another by name, where churches fill on Sunday mornings and high school football draws the whole county on Friday nights, violence feels especially jarring. When something terrible happens in a place like this, it doesn't fade into statistics. It lingers in memory. Part 1: The Rossman Dairy Road Murders. In the quiet shadows of Moultrie, Georgia, the Rossman Dairy Road murders shattered a peaceful community, and some secrets were never meant to be buried.
It started May 15, 2016, when the home on Rossman Dairy Road in Moultrie went up in flames. 3 days later, 25-year-old Jeffrey Peacock was arrested, accused of shooting the 5 victims, then setting the fire to cover it up. Fast forward to April of 2017, the district attorney's office files to seek the death penalty against Peacock. Since then, the court case has been delayed several times by clerical issues and changes in attorneys.
The families of the victims plan to attend all court hearings, that case getting a lot of attention from folks across our region. Nolani Matthews is in Moultrie now, where the community continues to mourn.
This empty lot is all that's left of a painful memory in Moultrie. It's where 2 years ago, 5 friends were brutally murdered. Their home then set on fire. This decorated memorial, the only sign of the lives that once lived here. Their estranged friend accused of the murder and concealing the crime. Jeffrey Peacock is now facing the death penalty.
But in the spring of 2016, that sense of peace was shattered. What began as a report of a house fire would quickly reveal something far more calculated. 5 people were dead before the flames ever started. This is the story of what happened on Rossman Dairy Road, the investigation that followed, and the courtroom battle that ended in 5 life sentences. Early that morning, a 911 call came in. A man reported that his friend's house was fully engulfed in flames, and that they were still inside. First responders arrived to find heavy fire consuming the home. Smoke rolled into the Georgia sky. The structure was largely destroyed. Once firefighters extinguished the blaze, investigators entered what remained. Inside, they discovered 5 bodies: Jonathan Edwards Jr., Alicia Norman, Reed Williams, Jones Pidcock, Jordan Croft. Each victim had been shot in the head. The medical examiner would later testify that all 5 were dead before the fire began. The blaze had not been accidental. It had been set intentionally. The fire was not the crime. It was the cover. 2 family dogs were also found dead inside from smoke and burns. A third dog was located outside the home. It had not died from fire, but from blunt force trauma to the skull. The scene was not just violent. It was deliberate. The evidence presented at trial painted the picture of a man immersed in drugs and chaos, drinking heavily, using cocaine, and moving through the house as violence unfolded room by room. 5 people were shot at close range, execution style, and when it was over, instead of calling for help, instead of facing what had been done, the house was set on fire in an attempt to erase it. 3 days later, Peacock sat down with agents from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. For hours, he held to his original story. Breakfast, cigarettes, a calm morning, then came the arrest, and then came a new version of events. This time, Peacock said he returned to the house and found Jordan Croft alive in the kitchen. He claimed they drank together, used cocaine. He said he began to feel strange and walked down the hallway. There, he claimed, he found the others already dead. He said Croft pulled a gun. He said they fought. He said he wrestled the weapon away and shot Croft twice in self-defense. And then, after hours of drinking and smoking marijuana, he decided to set the house on fire.
Well, a case that began with a house fire in Moultrie in 2016 came to a close today. A judge found Jeffrey Peacock guilty on all counts for killing 5 of his friends and their 3 dogs before setting the house on fire to cover it up.
WALB News 10's Paige Dower joins us live now at the Colquitt County Courthouse. Paige, what were the families, the victims' mothers saying when they took the stand today?
The mothers begged Judge James Hardy to give Jeffrey Peacock the maximum sentence. They spent the last hour, or the state within the last hour, humanized the victims. He talked about their life plans that will never be fulfilled, ending with District Attorney Brad Shealy talking about how this is the coldest, most calculated killing he's seen in his career. Susan Williams' statement was full of descriptions on how close she was with her only son, Reed, how he showed affection by saying, "I love you more than a fat boy loves cake." She also recalls his Bible that was recovered in the torched house, the same Bible investigators say didn't have any fire damage. The mothers nodded in agreement as Suzanne said they'll never be able to fully recover from this tragedy.
Jeffrey Peacock has robbed 5 wonderful young adults of their futures, and we, the families, of the joy and comfort of their presence in our lives. In many ways, we will all be serving lifelong sentences.
Shealy also calls upon Judge Hardy to make sure Peacock is, quote, never able to walk these streets again. Ultimately, Peacock is found guilty and will serve multiple consecutive life sentences without the possibility of parole.
In Moultrie, the pecan trees still stand in quiet rows, their branches stretching across fields that look peaceful in the fading light. But on Rossman Dairy Road, that calm was shattered in a way the town will never forget. Beneath those same trees, where the air hangs heavy and the nights fall slow, horror took root inside an ordinary home. What happened there was not just violence. It was a rupture in the heart of a small community, a reminder that even in the most tranquil corners of South Georgia, darkness can grow unseen until it erupts without warning. Part 2, the Moultrie McDonald's Massacre.
Breaking news, at least 4 people have been killed in shootings in the southern part of the state of Georgia. This happened in the town of Moultrie. County coroner says a man shot and killed 2 women in a home, then went into a McDonald's and killed another woman before taking his own life.
The McDonald's murders, a town shaken. On a quiet spring morning in Moultrie, the day began like many before it. Mist rising over pecan groves, the hum of early traffic, and workers preparing for another busy day in this small South Georgia community. But before sunrise on May 4, 2023, something far more frightening was unfolding. At approximately 5:50 a.m., the familiar drive-through line at a McDonald's became part of a tragic story that would ripple through Moultrie's tight-knit neighborhoods. Surveillance footage later reviewed by investigators showed 26-year-old Kentavious White, a local young man, arriving at the restaurant on 1st Avenue Southeast just before dawn. White, who worked at the McDonald's, called the assistant manager, 41-year-old Amia Smith, to the door. Moments later, she was shot dead outside the restaurant. Seconds after that, the footage shows White step inside the building and turn the gun on himself, ending his own life. Yet this was not the first violence of the morning. As law enforcement responded to the restaurant, calls came in from nearby homes on 6th Street Southwest. There, 2 women had also been shot, victims later identified by the Georgia Bureau of Investigation as Susie Arnold, 50, and Hilda Marshall, 74. Both women were related to White, his mother and grandmother. Arnold was taken to a nearby hospital where she later died. Marshall was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators pieced together the timeline. White first shot his mother and grandmother in their adjoining homes before driving to the McDonald's, where he killed Smith and then himself. The motive behind the killings remains unclear. Authorities were unable to point to a specific reason for the violence, and as of the latest reports, investigators did not publicly confirm what drove White to commit the acts. For the people of Moultrie, a town known for its slow pace and strong personal connections, the death sent shockwaves. Neighbors struggled to reconcile the everyday familiarity of Main Street with the horror of what happened at dawn. Part 3, Blood on Highway 37, the Jamie Cruz Resendez Family Massacre. The house sat quietly just outside Moultrie, along a stretch of road where pine trees leaned toward the ditch lines and traffic hummed past without much notice. It was the kind of place where school buses groaned to a stop each afternoon and children spilled out with backpacks and homework and stories about their day. On November 8, 2004, that rhythm broke. 3 Resendez children and their cousins stepped off the bus and walked toward the front door. The air felt ordinary, the yard looked the same, nothing warned them. Inside, there was silence. Then there was blood. Jamie Cruz Resendez lay dead. His wife, Tina Resendez, lay nearby. Tina's mother, Betty Watts, had also been shot. The family's housekeeper, Liliana Alegria Aguilar, was dead. And in the house was the smallest victim of all, 3-year-old Juan Carlos. 5 bodies. Execution-style gunshots. A home turned into something unrecognizable. The children ran. Within minutes, deputies from the Colquitt County Sheriff's Department arrived, followed by agents from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation. Yellow tape fluttered in the Georgia wind. Neighbors gathered at a distance. Word spread quickly through Colquitt County. Something terrible had happened on Highway 37. Jamie Resendez, they learned, had been moving marijuana from Texas into Georgia. Shipments had been seized, money had gone missing, and somewhere in that chain was a supplier in Texas demanding repayment. According to later testimony, communication between Jamie and the supplier stopped. Phone calls went unanswered, tension built. Authorities began focusing on a man named Jerry Johnny Thompson Jr., someone allegedly involved in the same drug operation. Investigators believed Thompson had been tasked with pressuring Jamie to make contact and resolve the debt. The theory that emerged in court years later was chillingly simple. Intimidation turned into slaughter. A circle of men, another name surfaced, Anthony "Amp" Davis, described in testimony as an enforcer. Someone who handled confrontations. And then a third name, Alexander Woods III. According to Thompson's account at trial, he met Davis and Woods at a gas station near the Resendez home on the morning of the murders. The plan, he said, was to scare Jamie, to force a phone call, to send a message, but by the time the sun rose high over the pecan groves, 5 people were dead. Fire in the dark. 2 months after the murders, in January 2005, Anthony "Amp" Davis was found shot to death and burned. His killing remains unsolved. The circle was tightening, but it was also fracturing. Arrests and indictments. In 2006, Thompson was indicted. His girlfriend, Wilma Ann Yvonne Stover, was later indicted as well. Years passed. Then, in March 2011, a Colquitt County grand jury indicted Alexander Woods III on 5 counts of malice murder, 5 counts of felony murder, and aggravated assault. By then, nearly 7 years had passed since the children stepped into that house. 3 people were charged in connection with the murders. Jerry Johnny Thompson Jr. pleaded guilty in 2011 to 5 counts of murder and was sentenced to life in prison. He testified that he sent other men to the home to collect money. Alexander Woods III, convicted in May 2013 on all 15 counts, malice murder, felony murder, and aggravated assault, and sentenced to 5 consecutive life sentences. In July 2022, it was reported that Woods was granted a new trial based on appeals regarding his legal representation. Wilma Ann Yvonne Stover, charged in 2006 for her alleged participation. So why do crimes like this happen in places like Moultrie? A quiet South Georgia town. Pecan groves. 2-lane highways. Front porches and Friday night lights. No one ever thinks it will happen there. The truth is, violence doesn't choose its setting based on population size or postcard beauty. It follows people, their choices, their secrets, their debts, their desperation. Even in a place like Moultrie, life carries the same tensions found anywhere else in America. And sometimes, those tensions explode. Over time, the intensity of these homicides has faded. The headlines have grown less frequent. The shock has softened into memory, but the past never fully disappears. It lingers in court records, in quiet conversations, in the spaces where something once stood whole. Small towns are not immune. They are simply smaller stages for the same human conflicts. Could it happen again? History teaches us that tragedy is never impossible, only unpredictable. But communities endure, they rebuild. They remember, and long after the sirens fade and the cameras leave, what remains is not just the horror of what happened, but the resilience of the people who stayed. In Moultrie, the fields still grow. The buses still run. The sun still sets over Highway 37. And life, fragile, complicated, and uncertain, goes on until Satan decides to visit Moultrie one more time.